Good morning. My name is Robert Klein. Welcome to the progress report on the milestones to cures driven by Proposition 71, which all of you were critical in launching in 2004. The 7 million votes that approved this $3 billion initiative would not have been possible without each of you. As the lead author of Proposition 71 and as the chairman of the campaign, while it started with my desire to help a son with type 1 diabetes, I soon embraced the whole spectrum of chronic disease and injury, from Dawn's son, Roman, to children with leukemia, to other parents like my mother who had Alzheimer's. But it is thanks to you as donors, scientists, lawyers, political representatives, CIRM board members and staff, and patient advocates for your visionary contributions to Proposition 71 that has taken a broad dream and made it a reality that can save lives and is saving lives and mitigating critical chronic disease and injury. You have supported this through litigation, political attacks. You've supported unique bridge bond structures even during litigation to keep the agency going. It is your commitment with other scientists throughout the world that have given us 250 out-of-state peer review participants, that have provided $1 billion in matching funds for new research institutions, centers of excellence, and faculty endowments. Through your help and support, we have collaboratively worked on development of ethical standards with the National Academies of Science and the NIH, with the FDA on the standards and processes for stem cell therapies, and finally, in the funding partnerships with 12 foreign nations and multiple nonprofit governmental institutions in the U.S. Before starting this formal report, I want to make it clear that this is not a CIRM event and the opinions expressed belong to the chair and the members speaking, but we have the privilege of the presence of board leadership and the president's office, plus several prior board members. And I would like to recognize those board members who I will ask to stand. And we will hear from Dr. Alan Trounsend, the president, immediately before lunch on a brave and a courageous new initiative called Alpha Clinics. Those board members are Jonathan Thomas, chair, Art Torres, vice chair, Arnold Kriegstein, director of the Dagmar and Ray Dolby UCSF Center for Stem Cell Research, Anne-Marie Dulage, Diane Winokur, and prior board members who are here, Dr. Ed Holmes, former dean of the medical school at UC San Diego and now running the consortium, and Dr. Phil Pizzo, former dean of Stanford Medical School and a great inspiration at the beginning of this initiative. I'd also like to recognize James Harrison, the board counsel, who was instrumental from the drafting process through the entire history of this organization. But what we have here today is a report on extraordinary results. Dr. Ted Love is, where is Ted? Ted, thank you, Ted. Ted was also the chief scientific officer at one time, a tremendous driving and guiding force for the board. The extraordinary results, the major scientific successes, represent some of the best evidence of success we all dreamed of achieving approximately 10 years ago. 10 years next year. Because of the litigation from the extreme right that held us up for 22 months until we could obtain a definitive decision from the state Supreme Court, we've only funded research for 6.5 years, so it makes it even more remarkable that the scientists and physicians working with patient advocates have been able to accomplish the extreme successes, although preliminary, that provide us great hope for breakthroughs in human suffering. The successes have included, for example, the scientists receiving grants have published over 1,750 medical discoveries. It is now publishing at one every day, an incredible rate of success, with many of these discoveries moving downstream into early translation research that feeds the pipeline towards human trials. We have 12 research institutes and centers of excellence and specialty research centers that have been built with the benefit of $1 billion of donor and institutional matching funds. And today we will focus on the beginning phase of human trials that have already begun to save lives and substantially mitigate chronic disease. We have also proven the value of state funding through bonds of medical research discovery. Some of you know there is a little volatility in Washington. And to have the stability and the commitment of funding to bring the best and the brightest in to work on a medical revolution on the edge of controversy and the leadership of science, we need stability, we need predictability. And the California voters have provided that predictability to guide a medical revolution buffered from the political and financial volatility at the federal level. While we will focus today on the human trials, it is critical to understand that we started with basic research. And this basic research and early translation research are critical and remain critical to move many of the disease therapies you will hear about today through the obstacles they will face in human trials and to continue to build on the discoveries that will give birth to new human trials in the future. While as we enter this phase of human trials, we know that we are entering the last tactical mile. This may be the toughest tactical mile to fully bring effective therapies to patients while minimizing side effects and strictly observing ethical standards. As we drive forward, we can listen and remember the words of Robert Frost. We have promises to keep, but we have miles to go before we sleep. The results we are talking about today from preliminary work, from preclinical work, from preliminary results of human trials, from human trials that are seeking FDA approval, we know that there will be revisions to these results, revisions to therapeutic plans, challenging obstacles, setbacks, and unexpected successes. We know that it will take several years of validation to make sure that the results we're getting are consistent. With Proposition 71, though, we have built the bridge over the valley of death. We are building the bridge over the valley of death where so many promising therapy candidates are stillborn because of a lack of critical resources to carry the work through the preclinical challenges before an FDA trial approval and through the phase 1 human trials and the phase 2 proof of concept human trials. To accomplish the goal of building a broad spectrum of therapies to reduce human suffering, there are some extraordinary changes in the way science has been done, which have been achieved by Prop 71 with the direction of the CIRM staff and the CIRM board. And I'd like to just hit on a couple of those. Some others will become obvious as we go forward. First is bringing together the best and the brightest, not looking at silos of expertise, jealously guarding new discoveries. San Diego Stem Cell Consortium represents this kind of incredible collaboration, bringing together the Salk Institute with the Sanford Burnham Institute, with UC San Diego, with Scripps, a phenomenal ability to pull the best and the brightest into their teams. And confidence has been shown at a very high level in those results, capped this last week by a $100 million additional donation by Denny Sanford to drive human trials. Hopefully, scientists that are here today will talk to some of the scientists from San Diego, because this is a phenomenal resource to California, to the nation, and to the world. But in addition to the consortium effect, there's been tremendous collaborations. Those collaborations are global, bringing the scientists from 12 nations on 5 continents together as funding partners with California. An amazing aggregation of the best and the brightest to meet our obligations to patients, to bring them the best in the world to advance these therapies. And there is the aggregation of expertise between institutions. This slide happens to be one that shows what the City of Hope has done in providing GMP, FDA-approved cellular therapies to institutions throughout California. The aggregation of the best and the brightest in California, in the world, to honor our obligation to patients with this extraordinary opportunity for $3 billion that's been entrusted to all of us. California is 50% of the US biotech research capacity. As a nation, it has greater capacity than any other nation in the world other than the US. But we have an obligation with this unique opportunity to bring together global resources for the benefit of patients. Today, the presentations will cover a spectrum of stem cell research intentionally. It's a representation that goes from small molecule therapies through all to iPS-based disease models, all the way through to cellular therapies. The intent is to understand that Proposition 71 captures the opportunity on the entire spectrum of stem cell research and what it can tell us about disease. From phase 2 and 3 trials you will hear about, that's right, phase 2 and phase 3 human trials you will hear about, remarkable in 6.5 years. Some would say unbelievable, but true. Using small molecules, therapies to deal with blood-based leukemias, to embryonic stem cell-derived therapies for type 1 diabetes and macular degeneration, blindness hitting 1 out of 4 of us over 65, to the iPS-driven disease models for high-throughput robotic screening for new therapies for Parkinson's and related diseases, to fetal cells to derive neural cells for Alzheimer's therapies, to embryology studies that have led to breakthroughs in IVF. These historic breakthroughs across the spectrum illustrate the need for real continued commitments to scientific freedom, to maintaining the protection for embryonic stem cell research, the gold standard that iPS-derived cells have to be compared to maintain scientific freedom so that fetal cells, which historically have given us the base for our vaccines that have been used for rubella and measles and polio, for the entire spectrum of cells and the knowledge derived from them to be used for the best outcomes for patients. It is critical that we understand the job before us, but it is critical, too, as we look at these milestones, to celebrate the progress that has been made against chronic disease and injury. It is remarkable. We celebrate these scientists and the patient advocates working with them. We remember that the next 3 years will be intense and an important period to prove the milestones to California voters. Hopefully, if we can prove these milestones and these models as we have to date, all of us together, the California public will look forward to the second stage of the great experiment to change the future of human suffering, the experiment we call Proposition 71. So today, as we do the presentations, there will be video. The videos will not be released without the sign-off of the scientists and the patient advocates making the presentations. And if anyone in the audience wishes to edit anything from the video, they should contact us to do so. We will try with great discipline and courage to limit the speakers to the time periods allowed. But I wish to tell you, please focus on each of these scientists, on each of the patient advocates who with courage have tried with their lives to prove the ability to help save other lives. Each of these people should be given great attention and great admiration for their dedication. With that, I'm going to move immediately to Dr. Katrina Jameson. And as with the other scientists, we have books that are available in the front with short bios, but we'll not focus on the bios today because the achievements they have far outstrip anything you could write in a bio, and we're privileged to try and focus your time on the advancement of the stem cell revolution through their work.